Now, some more context on our lead story. One of the most striking factors in the brutal killing of drummer Lee Rigby has been the way that the story has been seen and told almost entirely by ordinary people using mobile phones and social networks. Kevin Poulter is an expert in the rise of social media and its impact, and he joins us in the studio. I mean, that man with the machete wanted those cameras there, didn't he? Immediately wanted those cameras there.
Absolutely, and he was certain that they would be there. The sort of the rise of the smartphone and access to just immediately uploading material, stories, whatever it might be. It's everywhere, and he knew that that would happen. We've seen previously terrorists using YouTube to upload videos of themselves to get a wider message out there, but also to direct it to the people who they want to reach out to. So the disenfranchised youth, usually, the people who are used to using it.
But in a sense, it backfired on them because, in fact, what it got was a groundswell of support for the victim, didn't it?
That's right, support for the victim, of course. But also, what's been interesting particularly is the community that's responded to as well, the Muslim community in particular, who through their own sort of organisations, but also individually, have distanced themselves and said how awful this has been and really made that important.
So do you think, though, that social media is really an instrument now, a tool for breeding more radicalism?
I think it's always been there. I think people are using it better. They're getting used to how it works. And I say, it's reaching out to that particular demographic that they're trying to get hold of, wherever they may be all over the world.
But let's just talk about, people actually filming it. The problem is it just goes, it's unfiltered. It just goes straight to air. Is that a big danger?
I think it is. And I think there's been some backlash on the broadcast news channels.
Let's actually look at those pictures, because these are now these have been all over the world, haven't they? I mean, these are the pictures, aren't they? This is extraordinary science, aren't they?
And again, as you say, it's unfiltered, there's no censorship, and there's this demand for urgency, for immediacy to get the news story out there first. And where social media started to do that, the media that we're familiar with has started to follow it, and the newspapers now have their websites and everything is uploaded there straight away.
Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a dangerous thing. It's dangerous that we don't know what the message is they're trying to get across immediately. And in this situation, it's a particularly horrific message.
Let's just dissect the new, or rather remove the news process, if you like. So those pictures are taken, right, on a phone. Now, somebody's going to ring up a newspaper, aren't they, and say, would you like these? Now, just take us through actually what happened. Because and the others, and add to that, if you would. I know you're not a lawyer necessarily, but
I am a lawyer.
Well, there you are, even better. But the evidential difference that actually makes from what happens in a situation.
Well, it's the opportunity to take somebody's word and actually put some actual evidence behind it. What people are reluctant to report back on hearsay, on word of mouth. When there are pictures and images to go along and support it, then it seems almost there's some more value to it, and it is more genuine, it's more believable and honest. I think particularly interesting in this case is I think the person who started uploading the first tweets had the first images.
I think they were the first one. Yeah.
They've obviously been offered, I think, significant amounts of cash by newspapers, by websites for interviews, and turned that down.
And those really pictures, I think we noticed today, changed ownership a few times, as well as other organisations came in and...
Quite possibly, and that's again the risk of social media, that you have no necessary ownership over the images, over the photos.
Indeed, with your lawyer's hat on, I mean, what do you think about it? Do you think there should be... how can you legislate against this?
Well, in terms of what's going out there, I think it's down to the news channels, it's down to the websites, it's down to whoever's hosting these things to do something about it, and perhaps to start putting some controls out.
Now, you can see in a place like Africa, I mean, this would be gold dust, not so much for the money given, but for the informational thing, because obviously they don't have as big a traditional media as we do, but they're big on mobile phones.
Well, you say that. I think across Africa, only 6%, I think figures last year said only 6% have smartphones, and only 16% are on the internet across the population. So I'm not sure how obviously it's growing within, again, particularly with the youth, the younger people who are online, who are getting used exposed to this. And I think that's the difference.
I think it depends where you are in Africa. I mean, in Nigeria, for example, there are 100 million SIM cards out there.
Yeah. It's also a way, of course, to get underneath the censorship, underneath any particularly affiliated press or media or ones that are perhaps under more authoritarian control. And this is something which is democratic.
Now I'm just going to say, is it, you see, because we think of democracy as actually voting on a piece of paper and putting across it, the rest of it, what this now does throughout the world is to say what we really think is this, doesn't it? So you can actually use the pictures as part of a democratic process.
Yeah, but it's also, I think, about breaking down those communication barriers. It's about reaching out to people, as I said before, and really getting your message across, and whether that be on blogs, whether that be through images on the screen.
Or you take that Syrian rebel leader who, purported to cut the heart out of one of the Syrian government troops and eat it. I mean, that's very sinister. This is the other end of it as well. So
Absolutely.
It's used for terror, it's used for all that. I mean, it's like a huge beast.
Yeah, and we must remember that the camera can lie.
Yes.
What we see isn't necessarily always the truth, and I'm sure going to Cannes, we'll learn a lot more about that.
Puts us out of work, doesn't it?
Well, potentially. Journalists, as I've said before, that I think without phone hacking available anymore, people, particularly tabloid media, journalism is turning into social media to pick up on these stories, and that's where they're happening first. Unfortunately, the broadcast and the print media are on the back foot now.
Well, what's next after social media, communication-wise?
Well, who knows with the Google Glass?
The Google Glass, yes.
Yeah, we'll see how that develops and turns
Kevin
things
Poulter,
around.
thanks. We'll talk to you again. Kevin
Thank
Poulter,
you.
thanks very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.